me. I mean, I know it's only my third post of 2019, but hey, I'm making it happen. I'm making it happen out in these Facebook streets. Anyway, I want to continue a conversation that we started this weekend. So I hope everybody's having an amazing Monday. But over the weekend, I started a conversation about what I do in my law practice, which is assisted reproduction. And so I'm an assisted reproduction attorney or surrogacy attorney, however you want to say it. My job, I guess at the end of the day, my job is to make sure that intended parents or parents who work with me are able to leave the hospital legally with a baby that they didn't deliver. And there's a lot of things that go along in making that happen, from the decision to delivery process. But I want to break some of those main concepts down and just give you a better understanding of what to look for in going through that process. I mentioned yesterday that I thought that there were three main concepts. I called it my three T's for surrogacy process. And so I want to remind you of what those things are and highlight one of those main T's. So let's look at let's start with where we started yesterday and kind of pick it back up and go from there. So I mentioned to you that there are, in my estimation, three main themes that you need to make sure you know about. And I call them my three T's for surrogacy. My first grade teacher would not be too happy with my handwriting skills, but Miss White, listen, I haven't written a whole lot since the year 2006 or so, because we type nowadays. But anyway, hopefully you can read my handwriting. So my three T's for surrogacy. And I said that, at the center of your journey, you're down the surrogacy path, everybody wants the same exact thing. Everybody wants a beautiful, healthy baby. That's what we're all on this journey looking for. We're looking for help in growing our family and achieving the goal of having a baby. But I also said to achieve that goal in the least stressful and the most direct way in assisted reproduction, specifically surrogacy, there's three concepts that you have to have a handle on. And you need to know these things before you start the process so that you approach it in the correct way. So the first thing I said you have to have a handle around is team, the concept of team in surrogacy. The second thing I said that you have to have a handle on are the terms in a surrogacy. And lastly, I said you have to understand the tact involved with surrogacy. So I want to really quickly give you a broad overview of the team concept today. So we'll dig into the team concept. I'll highlight just a few things about the team concept, and then we'll continue on tomorrow with another one of the three T's. So let's break down this team concept. Let's break down the team concept. So in your team, there's a number of things that's going to happen for you to have the team that you need. So let's look at your team. The first thing I want you to know about the principle of your team in surrogacy is you first and foremost need to get one. So you have to select your squad. You got to squad up. You have to select your squad. You have to know exactly who you're going to have on that team. So let's talk about some of the people who are going to make it onto your squad. Your team is going to consist of an attorney. If you're in a state like California, it's law. You have to have an attorney. You simply do. You have to have an attorney. And it's funny because I always tell my clients, you should start with your attorney. You should start with your attorney. And it sounds self-serving because, of course, I'm an attorney. And they're like, of course, you want us to start with you. But there's a reason behind my recommendation. And before I even get into my reason, you have to understand that in California, it's a law that you have to have an attorney representing both sides of a surrogacy arrangement. So you're not getting around having an attorney. It's just a matter of when you're going to choose to start working with your attorney. So it's either now or later, and I always vote for now, sooner rather than later. And the reason I say that is because inherently there is a potential conflict, or there is a dual obligation when you're working with your agency. Your agency is serving you, while at the same time your agency is serving your surrogate. Now, that does not mean that surrogacy agencies are illegitimate or unethical. I think the opposite. I think if there's anybody else who you need to really focus on bringing on your team, it's take care in bringing on your agency. Because a good agency, notice I said a good agency, is worth their weight in gold. I need you to look me. A good agency is worth their weight in gold. Your agency should be more than just a matching service. A good agency is really going to walk with you throughout the entire process, and they're going to be with you along every step of the surrogacy path. But before I go down a rabbit hole on that one, just know I think that you should approach your. I think you should approach your choosing an attorney at the very beginning. Because, like I said, an agency has to represent you, and they have to represent the surrogate. Your physicians even, they have an obligation to your surrogate because they are administering medical service to them, and they're also accepting payment and serving you as well. But your attorney is only representing you. They have no other obligation, no other loyalty except for representing you. So your attorney can help you navigate your relationships and the contracts and the retainers and the paperwork and the informed consent documents with your clinic and with your agency. So select your squad. Your squad's going to consist of everything from hopefully an agency and an attorney to a medical clinic, your reproductive endocrinologist, the OB that serves your surrogate, as well as even mental health professionals, which I highly recommend being a large part of the process as well. But I'm not going to dig too deeply into it. Just know that the first part of the process is to select your squad. Now, once you select your squad, once you know who you're going to work with, and you have a handle on who they are, and you kind of have an eye towards choosing this person, I still think there's one thing that you have to do before you actually pull the trigger to work with them. And I mean, before you work with an attorney, before you work with an agency, a clinic, whoever it is, there's one more thing you have to do before you pull the trigger. And that is to assess their approach. You have to assess their approach. Know exactly what you're getting into. Know when you sign that retainer agreement with the agency, what is their view on matching you with the surrogate? Do they have a roster full of surrogates who have been medically screened before being presented to you? Not many do, but some do. Or are they going to match you with the surrogate who then will go on to be medically screened and determined if she's physically healthy enough to engage in the process? Know when the payments are due. What is their payment structure? How is it split up? When is each payment going to be taken from you? Is there a payment taken at the very beginning to even match you? Do they not receive their first payment until they match you? Is part of the process of your paying them held up until she actually gets medical clearance? And these are things that you'll work to understand the terminology and all that. But what I want you to take away from this is whoever you're working with, whichever service professional, your attorney, your clinic, your psychological professional, make sure you assess their approach and know exactly how they work so that your expectations are managed and their expectations are managed for how you're going to interact with them. So that's the number two thing I'd say about the team aspect of your 3 T's. And the third thing that I think you have to keep in mind when selecting your team and putting your team together is you have to recognize their role. Recognize their role. You've got to know your role, and you have to know their role. It's very important because there are a number of things that go into the process that are going to fall under your purview. It's going to be your responsibility to handle these things, but there are also other things that should fall to your service professionals. You should know exactly who's going to schedule those doctor's appointments, who's going to follow up, who's responsible for getting the information, the medical consent forms, Who's responsible for getting doctor's reports on a weekly basis? What exactly is your surrogate's OB going to do? And with regard to communicating with you about how the pregnancy is going. All these things are really important for you to understand, and you have to recognize the role that your service professionals play and know exactly what to expect and what not to expect from them. So in case you want to see it again, you can see here that your 3 T's for surrogacy are team, terms, and tact. And in the team category, you want to make sure that you select your squad, you assess their approach, and you recognize their role. That's all the time I'm going to take from you today. I hope that you got a little bit more out of the 3 T's and you know exactly how to start approaching the concept of building your team for surrogacy success. And again, you always know how to reach me. You can find me at pinnaclefirm.com. You can also send me a message here, however you prefer. I hope that wherever you are on your family formation journey, that you're walking towards success and you're surrounding yourself with people who can help you do it. Have a great Monday and a great rest of the week. I will be on tomorrow to continue the conversation, and we'll choose another one of the T's and unpack it just a little bit for you. Have a great day.